Welcome to Being at Home with George. I'm excited to be here, and I like to begin the way I always begin, and that is to create the possibility that says yes to life and generating the hope, and then making wise decisions in terms of understanding and actually have a great experience of what's happening to us, in us, and around us. So I was just reflecting today on this idea of, I noticed when I watched the news media, not just the news media, but social media, seems to go to the darkness. What's wrong? Who's wrong? The blame game. And what the world needs now is more light or more love. And I'd like to read a quote from, I get the Marginalian. It's called the Midweek Pick Me Up. And it refers to James Baldwin's book titled Nothing Personal. And there's a quote I'd like to read, and then we'll go from there. One discovers the light in darkness. That is what darkness is for. But everything in our lives depends on how we bear the light. It is necessary, while in darkness, to know that there is a light somewhere, to know that in oneself, waiting to be found, there is a light. And so another way of saying light is love. And I know that there's a lot of opportunities in the moment that we can see the light. We can focus on what's right, catch somebody doing right. I've talked about that before, but focusing on what's the lesson in the lean towards the light, to be able to understand that there's light in the darkness, or you might look at darkness as the absence of light. And so the idea is it's really the absence of the perception of light, I would say. The light is always there, just like the sun or the moon. It'd be clouds, but it's always there. So our job is to go towards the light, to find the light. And it's interesting because I had a conversation today with a person who just put a bid in for a house. And in this market, the housing market is very challenging. And they're excited about the house, yet there's an inspection that has to be done before it's final. And the person is focusing on the darkness, focusing on what could go wrong. It might not go through, and having some excitement, but having a lot of worry and concern about what could go wrong. Or another way of saying, using the present moment and all the moments between now and then, focusing on the darkness, focusing on what could go wrong. And I suggested to the person that why not expect the best, and to anticipate that everything's going to work out and it's going to be great. And I said, here's the interesting thing about that. By doing that, you are actually spending more time in joy and love and light. And let's play devil's advocate, and let's say you expect everything to turn out and it doesn't turn out. Well, then you'll have some disappointment. But in the meantime, you've had all this light, all this love, all of this joy that you've been able to experience. And usually what happens, because of self-fulfilling prophecy, is we live into the future we see. And so the idea is just to understand there's opportunities where we could focus on what's right, what's wrong, rather than what's wrong. We could focus on what we want rather than what we don't want, or what we got before that we don't want. So it's really this opportunity. Each moment is pregnant with possibility, but it's our perception of the light, perception of what we want, and to live in that light, and to understand that the darkness is always going to be there, but the darkness is just the absence of light, or the absence of the perception of light. And so for me, I can't tell you how many times, because I've come to this realization, that I say joy now and never, because this joy, if I can be grateful for what I have, focus on what's right, because I know I live in a culture that is based on pathology, that's always good at understanding what's wrong and focusing on what's wrong, rather than focusing on what we want, focusing on what's right, and focusing on creating more light and living in the light. So let's go for the light.